What is going on, everybody? My name is Monatui, and today I'm bringing you guys Week 7 of the PPL Division 2. If you guys don't know what the PPL is, or the PPL D2, please check out the description below. There will be a link to the Pokemon Premier League Twitter, as well as the YouTube, as well as the link to my opponent, Electric Storm 252, I believe's channel. Please check him out on YouTube. He is currently one slot ahead of us, I believe. I believe he has the same record as we do. No, he has one more win than we do, I believe. But anyway, getting into team preview, he brought about what I thought he would bring. He brings the Infernape, the Tauros, which I'm very afraid of, the Azelf, Salamence, Suicune, and Mega Altaria. I kind of thought he would bring maybe Dragalge over Salamence, but that is not the case, obviously, here. If that thing is a Dragon Dance Salamence, I may have an issue with it, but I can deal with it. He did bring the Suicune, so I'm thinking it's not going to be Crocune, because again, if he's only running Scald, he cannot touch my Heliolisk. And yeah, Tauros, like I said, I'm very afraid of, because it has Earthquake to hit my Excadrill, has Iron Head, Sheer Force boosted Iron Head to hit my Togetic. It can just hit my team very hard. And yeah, that is basically his team. As you can see, I am bringing the 6 that I mentioned in my Team Builder video. If you guys have not checked that out, please do. It is the video that was uploaded the day prior to this, so please check that out to see my thought process behind building the team. But anyway, we are going to get right into the match. So, as you can see here, he is right there. He's issuing the challenge. Jacqueline, apparently he's a woman, that's fine. He's going to lead with his Mega Altaria, as I decide to lead with my Heliolisk. He doesn't have an Electric Immunity. I outspeed everything that is not Scarfed. Heliolisk is a decent lead for me. He is going to go right for the Mega Evolution, as he has to in this league-based format, as I just go for the Volt Switch. And HP Ice will not do a lot of damage, and I cannot take an Earthquake or even a return from this thing, as Heliolisk is not very physically bulky. But I do go out into my check to this thing, being my Togetic, and as you can see, he actually goes for the Double Edge, which has me thinking this is going to be an offensive Altaria, not a bulkier one, like a bulky one with Cotton Guard, because obviously you don't want to be taking that recoil damage. Here he is going to switch out into his Suicune, as I just go right for the, as you'll see in a second, right for the Toxic. He did not bring Dragalge, so there's nothing immune to the Toxic. I'll just be able to get some residual damage off on everything. If this Suicune has Rest, I will force it to go for Rest at a later time. But here, knowing I can take any hit, I decide to go for the Baton Pass, as he actually decides to pull a double out into Mega Altaria. I'm not entirely sure what he was predicting there, maybe the Heliolisk, but here I can just go for the slow Baton Pass and go out into my Excadrill, which threatens this thing immediately, because an Iron Head will do a lot of damage. And other than Suicune, he doesn't really have a safe switch into it, and Suicune is poison, so it will be getting worn down. However, he actually decides to go out into his Salamence, and as you'll see here, he reveals the Intimidate, and as you'll see from this damage, this is actually a physically defensive Salamence, because that Iron Head does absolutely nothing, and he is rocking the leftovers. So, while it's going to be annoying because he now has an extra switch into my Excadrill, it's also okay because he does not have, it's not the Dragon Dance set that could potentially sweep me. So here I go right back out into my Togetic, knowing that because he is bulky, he will not be able to do much damage to me. He probably is not running Iron Tail, as he pulls a pretty good double into his Tauros. And as I was afraid of, he does reveal the Life Orb Sheer Force boosted Iron Head, but I am able to take it because Togetic is a beast, and I'm able to get off a Toxic. I can tell that that is Life Orb by the damage, as a non-Life Orb Iron Head would not be able to 2-hit KO me, but that can. Here, I think he is going to go for another Iron Head to take me out, so I actually pull the switch into my Excadrill, as he actually goes out into his Altaria. I think he may have been, I'm not entirely sure what he was predicting there, but here I do go out into my Excadrill, wanting to take the Iron Head and then pull a double into my Aerodactyl, knowing he'd either go for the Earthquake or the Fire Blast, but he does just pull the switch into Altaria. So here, I know he's going to go back out into his Salamence, so I decide to go right for the Rock Slide, just get a little bit of damage on this. As you guys can see, that does a pretty respectable amount of damage. Does about 35-40%. But I am not going to be able to 2-hit KO it from that range, so I am forced to switch out once again. And here, I believe I switch out into my Aerodactyl. Just because I can threaten this thing immediately. He can't hit me with the Earthquake, but once again he is pulling another double back out into his Altaria, and this is great because he may not expect me to have the Iron Tail, which I am packing, and will knock this thing out from this range. So he stays in. As you can see, I'm getting very excited. I Mega Evolve. I'm going to be able to knock out this Altaria in one hit unless he has max physical defense, which I don't think he is. I go for the Iron and we miss. So, and he gets off a heal bell. And real quick, I'm going to pause and explain to you guys how big that miss is. Now, it would have been terrible if he went for the double edge and killed my Aerodactyl. That would have sucked. But me missing Iron Tail means that the poison on the Tauros is gone, so he's not going to be getting worn down. The poison on the Suicune is gone, meaning if it does not have rest, it can just set up all over my face, and because I'm probably not going to find the time to Toxic again. And another thing that happens later on, but big reason, this thing is still alive, and this thing is annoying, so that sucks. Here, I do predict him to switch because he did see the Iron Tail. He does not want to lose his Altaria. I do predict the switch, and I go right for my Stealth Rocks, as you guys will see in 1 second after the pressure activates. There it is, Stealth Rocks. This is going to be very important because his only potential defogger is Salamence, and after the Iron Head, the Rock Slide, and switching in on Rocks damage, it is going to be worn down quite a bit. So that's going to be very important for me. Here I know I have to switch out my Aerodactyl, and I'm going to go into my dedicated, switch into this, my Heliolisk, as he just goes for the Ice Beam. Now, based on this damage, I could confirm that he was likely not in an Assault Vest variant with Mirror Coat, because Assault Vest would be running more special attack, and that would have done a lot more damage. So I'm not afraid of the Mirror Coat. I'm not afraid for just going for the Volt Switch, and as you guys can see, I go for the Volt Switch, and once again, does minimal damage to this Jupiter, but I think he's at the range to go down to a Dazzling Gleam from my Alakazam. This thing should already be dead, but that's totally fine. I can just hit it with the Dazzling Gleam. I don't think he's a bulky variant, but he's a bulky variant, so that's unfortunate, and he's going to hit me with the Double Edge, and thankfully I am going to live with my Sash, but because of that Iron Tail miss, my Focus Sash is now broken, and Aerodactyl's robbed of a kill, and now nothing gets the kill because Altaria kills itself, so that sucks, but it's okay, we're still in a pretty good position. Here he's going to send out his Azelf, and I'm thinking this thing has to be Scarfed. I'm an Alakazam, I outspeed this thing, so I switch out, and I kind of go out into my Togetic either to take the U-turn, or just to sack it off because it is at a very low amount of HP, but he does go for the U-turn, and it does minuscule damage. It is 4 HP, that is nothing. Togetic is fat, that's quad resisted. You know, other adjectives. Here he is actually going to go back out into Suicune, and here I am totally fine. Or actually, no. I could have gone for the Baton Pass in case he didn't kill me, but I decide I do want to just save my Togetic for fodder later on because that could be important. So I switch directly out into my Heliolisk. I have no reason not to. I can take an Ice Beam, no problem. If he has the Scald, that's even better. But here he reveals the Substitute, and I'm thinking because he was also Leftovers, he has Ice Beam, and probably Scald, he is likely going to be a Sub-Combine variant, which could potentially be annoying, but thankfully I do have checks to it, including this Heliolisk. So here I decide to Volt Switch out and go back out into my Togetic, this time as fodder in case he wants to go for the Ice Beam. His Substitute is broken. If he goes for the Calm Mind, that's totally fine as well. But here he goes, I go out into my Togetic as he does set up the Calm Mind. And right here I think if he goes for another Calm Mind or another Substitute, I can get a slow Baton Pass out into my Alakazam and lock him in with Encore. And at this point he does not have anything that wants to take a Psyshock. Azelf does not appreciate it, and nothing else is not to a KO'd. So here, thankfully, he does go for the Substitute, and I'm going to be able to get off the slow Baton Pass into my Alakazam, and this is exactly why I ran Encore on this set. I'm going to go right out into my Alakazam, still preserved with its Sash. Well, Sash broke, but it's still at 1 HP. He's thinking he can just take me out, but I reveal the Encore, and he is now permanently locked, well not permanently, but he is locked into Substitute for a few turns. And that's going to be very important, because not only will he not be able to kill me, and he will not be able to safely switch in, but he's going to be locked into Substitute, which will be taking away his HP constantly. So here we're going to go for the Psyshock. It does break the sub, as expected, and he is just going to go for another Substitute. Like I said, he does not have anything to safely switch into a Psyshock. I apologize. So here you're going to kind of see a little bit of repetition. I'm going to go for the Psyshock again, and this one, surprisingly to me, does not break the Substitute. because Suicune is the bulkiest thing on the planet. Now here, as you'll see, the Encore is going to end, and I could have predicted the switch and just gone for another Psyshock, which is probably my safest play, but I just go for another Encore, which I guess, no, Encore was definitely my safer play. Psyshock was the more ballsy play. It's totally fine. He's going to go out and do his Infernape. I am going to save my Alakazam, and at this point I decide I want to discover what this Infernape is running, and I go out into my Togetic. As I'm able to actually take a Mach Punch, because, again, Quad resisted. I'm able to take the Mach Punch, and then he knocks me out with the Overheat. So as I kind of predicted, he is a mixed Life Orb set, with Overheat and Mach Punch for my Heliolisk. So he's going to knock out my Togetic, which is totally fine. It was fought earlier. He's wearing himself out with the Life Orb, and here I can just go out into my Mega Aerodactyl. He did not have anything to really safely switch in on this thing. I can OHKO pretty much anything else that comes in other than the Absol with Earthquake, and this thing obviously, but here he's going to switch in Salamence, get the Intimidate, which is totally fine because I can still knock him out with the Stone Edge afterwards. So I am going to miss the Earthquake, he's going to be immune to the Earthquake, that's totally fine. And as long as I hit the Stone Edge, I can knock him out. And thankfully I do. As you guys can see, it is going to knock him out. I do get a crit, but the crit does not matter. The minimum amount that would have done would have been 50% from a Jolly Aerodactyl, so that's totally fine. Here he is going to go out into his Suicune once again, and I have no reason to not go back out into my Heliolisk at this point, so I am just going to go right into my Heliolisk, and he is going to go for the Ice Beam. Once again, I take it because Heliolisk does have decent special defense, and he is actually at range to die of a Thunderbolt, so, and nothing else really wants to switch in on a Thunderbolt, so I do just go right for the Thunderbolt, and Suicune is going to go down. So that notches one kill for Heliolisk, so that's pretty cool. Here, he is going to go back out into his Infernape, and I realize here I need to sack something. I don't want to sack Heliolisk because it can outspeed the Tauros, so I decide to just sack off my Excadrill. I could have saved this thing because I could have pretty easily bluffed the Scarf, I think, but his Azelf, I know, is Scarfed and it'll outspeed me, can hit me with a Fire Blast or a Fire Punch. This Infernape outspeeds me. His Tauros outspeeds me, can hit me with an Earthquake. I didn't really see the point in keeping it around. Again, the only point to keep it around would have been to bluff the Scarf, but that was kind of a 50-50 in my mind, and I didn't want it. So instead, I'm just going to sack it off, let him take a little more Life Orb damage, and here I go out into my Aerodactyl. As he is forced to sack his Infernape, he gets off a little bit of chip damage with the Mach Punch, and Aerodactyl is going to land its second kill of the game onto the Infernape. So we are in a pretty good spot, but we are still at risk of getting swept by that Azelf. That Scarfed Azelf can potentially kill me. Here he's going to go out into his Tauros, and here I kinda sorta make a misplay. Not really, but kind of. I'm going to sack off my Alakazam here. It's at 1 HP, it cannot outspeed the Scarfed Azelf. Azelf will kill it easily, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I had to sack something. Alakazam seemed the most expendable at the time. Here, I'm going to go out into my Godzilla, the Heliolisk, and I'm just going to get damage off on this thing with the Thunderbolt. I do get the paralysis, as you guys see, but it's not really going to matter because he does not get fully paralyzed, and he's going to be able to knock me out. The reason this was a misplay, well, I'll explain why it's a misplay in a little bit. Here, I basically have a free kill with Manaphy, as I can just come in and click Scald. He's not going to sack this thing off. I wanted to set up a Tail Glow, but I am unfortunately unable to. But here, I just go for the Scald, and I'm going to knock out the Tauros, and now he's left with just his Azelf. Now, because of the bulk investment I had, I know I can take 2 Thunder Punches, and I can kill this thing with two Scalds, but he's running Thunderbolt. And as you guys can see, that does a lot of damage, and it does a lot more than I thought. So I go for the Scald, I'm like, oh god, I think I lost. But I crit him. I crit him, and I don't feel bad. Because I needed that. And, okay, so, real quick, I'm going to go over why why sacking Helios was a misplay. It's obviously something I can't foresee, but my Heliolisk was timid with enough speed to outspeed, I believe, Adamant Salamence. Or no, Jolly Salamence. His Azelf was actually Modest Scarf, and not complete max speed. So my Heliolisk actually would have been able to outspeed his Azelf. I did not know that. I figured he would definitely be timid because he would want to outspeed things like that, and if he were timid, my Manaphy would have been able to take 2 Thunderbolts, my Aerodactyl would have been able to take a Thunderbolt from that range, and I would have won the game a little bit safer, but because he was running Modest, he would have been able to 2-KO my Manaphy, he would have been able to knock out my Aerodactyl at that point, so I definitely should have held on to my Heliolisk. I had no idea that he was Modest Scarf, and again, I can't really see that coming, so yeah, that's pretty much why that was not a misplay. I wouldn't call it a misplay, but I think you guys can understand what I'm trying to say here. Anyway, that was a great game. Jack, please, like I said, go check him out. His link will be in the description below. We are now sitting at 4-3 with a +9 differential. If Trav loses, and if I believe if Trav loses, then we are put into 3rd place, which is pretty cool. I could be a little bit wrong about that, but I know if things go our way, best case scenario, we can end up in 3rd place by the end of this week, and that is pretty cool. So, thank you guys for watching. Next week we are going up against Eric Ashton Kai, I believe, coach of the Chicago Cubs Shoes, Carter's replacement. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that, and I will see you guys in the next one.